Morning, everyone. It's great to be with you today. My name's Kell Julliard. I'm standing in for Tara Healy. I'm a certified mindfulness instructor, and I've done a lot of these, so perhaps some or many of you know me already. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to be working with today. So, just to sort of uh, open up our conversation, I'm going to ask you to type in the chat if you feel comfortable doing so. What meditation do you do most often? So that we just get a sense of the range of practices that, at least in the last little period of time, you've been doing. Um, so I'll give you a moment to think about that and type something in the chat. What meditation do you do the most often? It's interesting that the very first comment is mindfulness with the breath, because that's what we're going to be working on in a different way. I see guided meditations. I love guided meditations. I do often do guided meditations myself. And there's such a variety that you can access on Insight Timer, in the various apps, 10% Happier, uh, just a whole variety of apps, Breathe, Headspace. Walking meditations. Walking meditation is such a great way to bring meditation into the flow of life and to sort of bridge formal practice in a chair or on the cushion with practice in daily life. And it's something we're walking a lot often or moving about in some way. And it's something that we can do um, really without taking any extra time out of our day, which is a really great, can be a really great benefit for those of us with very busy lives. So for myself, and please feel free to key in something in the chat if you if it occurs to you. But for myself, I've trained in the Tergar meditation community's Joy of Living program, and we have many, many practices in that program, for meditating with any of the senses, to the loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity practices, to the insight practices that use meditation to help us experience the different aspects of life through the lens of wisdom. So at the beginning of that journey for me, meditating with the breath seemed quite confining. Like, why would you limit yourself to this one thing? But as I progressed in Joy of Living, I've realized that the breath just by itself can open us onto so many experiences and insights and has so many dimensions. I think one of the things that people can find challenging in terms of a breathing meditation is sometimes it's hard not to control the breath, to just let it come and go naturally. That when we focus on the breath, we might immediately start to control it. And one of the strategies that I've found very helpful for kind of getting out of that control mode is to focus on the sensations in the nostrils as I breathe, because those are not things I can control. If I'm focusing on my rib cage or my belly, it's more in a part of my body where I've got muscular control, but there's no muscles in the nostrils. So it's easier, I've found, for personally, to not control the breath if I bring awareness to the sensations of the in-breath and out-breath in the nostrils. Now, sometimes breathing meditation can be challenging in other ways, perhaps on an emotional level, or just something you don't like so well. And I'd suggest under those circumstances, you might try breathing meditation with your eyes open rather than closed, so that you're kind of in touch with the safety of your environment and just being in your environment in a good way. And also letting each out breath take you deeper into relaxation. And we'll talk a little more about this later, but there's a spontaneous letting go that happens with the out breath. So if you just take a big breath in right now, and just let it out, you can feel that there's a spontaneous letting go relaxation that happens, which can be very pleasurable. So just letting that happen, focusing on that letting go and that relaxation can help move the breathing meditation into a very positive place. So if you really don't like meditating with the breath, during the practice that we're going to be doing, I suggest that you meditate with sound. There'll be the sound of my voice, there'll be the sound in the environment, and there'll be different things that you can integrate from the meditation that I'm going to be leading with sound. Not everything, but a lot of it. So just to go briefly over some of the things that we're going to be covering today during our period of meditation with the breath. We're going to start out with counting the breath. Counting can actually be quite relaxing, and it's so simple and concrete that when we need to just feel a little more grounded in our life, in the flow of our day, counting the breath for a few breaths, 2, 3, 4 even, can be grounding and relaxing. Then, secondly, of course, there are many bodily sensations associated with the breath. There's the feeling of the breath moving in and out of the nostrils. You might be able to feel the breath in your throat, but certainly the rib cage expanding and contracting, the shoulders moving up and down, the belly moving in and out, even a sense of movement in the pelvis. There are just a lot of different sensations. The back against the chair, you can feel that moving with the breath. So there are many sensations that we can tune into as we meditate with the breath. Then in terms of the insight practices, the breath, of course, is constantly changing. So it's a window on the recognition of impermanence. So if we just notice that really the breath is never completely still for an instant. There's that moment after the out breath, before you need to breathe in, where there seems to be a moment of stillness. But during that, the body is getting ready to initiate the in-breath. So there's a movement, even though we might not be aware of it, in that resting in between the out-breath and the in-breath. Likewise, in terms of the wisdom and insight practices, the breath highlights our interdependence with the world around us, so that the air that we breathe has been exhaled by trees. And, it's been said that that at least in every breath, we're breathing in a few molecules that the Buddha or Jesus or Mohammed or Moses, that they breathe. So there's a connection with all of life in a way, through the breath. And then, of course, the breath can be a focus for gratitude, that we're grateful that we're alive, that we have our lives, that we're safe and healthy in this moment. So gratitude. And then I'm going to actually guide us in something I call the breath of compassion. And it's something that you can do in the flow of life. If you take a breath in, you might notice that there's a spontaneous, natural, energizing quality about breathing in, a supportive and enlivening feeling as we breathe in. And then as you let the breath go, just release and the breath flows out, there's a natural relaxation. So there's a nurturing and a relaxation with each in breath and out breath. And we can do that. We can tune into that as an expression of loving kindness and compassion for ourselves. So without further ado, let's move into our meditation time. And as I mentioned, for those of you that might have joined a little late, this is going to be focusing on the breath. But if you want to focus on sound or just body feelings in general, or do some other practice while we're doing this, that's perfectly fine. So we'll be doing about a 12-minute practice. And let's begin by settling into a posture that feels supportive of being present, but also relaxed. And you can, of course, be sitting, standing, lying down, whatever posture works for you. Eyes can be open or closed, and you can change that around if you want. But let's take a couple of deep breaths intentionally to start. In through the nose, out through the mouth, doubling the length of the exhalation. One more. This helps stimulate the calming aspect of the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. Now allow your breath to return to your natural rhythm, letting it come and go on its own. And for a moment, just let the mind rest. Let the mind and heart just be as they are. You're not pushing thoughts away or chasing after them. You're letting any sensation come and go as it will. You're letting your mind rest in a completely natural way, letting experiences arise, pass away as they will, just knowing that you're present and alive in this moment. Moving out of the doing mode of the morning and letting yourself just be, resting in the being mode. And now I'm going to invite you to count your breaths, counting from 1 to 4, and then starting over again. So with the in-breath, just let that be. And as you come to the out-breath naturally, without controlling the breath, just count 1. Next in-breath happens, then the out-breath spontaneously at the end of that, count 2. And we'll do this for 2 or 3 cycles. Just on your own time, letting your breath be in its own rhythm. Now, if you can, let go of the counting. and just tune into the pure sensation of the breath in your nostrils. Again, not controlling the breath, as much as possible, letting it come and go on its own. Just getting curious about what those sensations are in your nostrils as the breath moves in and out. Maybe you'll notice the breath is cool as it flows in and warmer as it flows out. Now, if you like, bring awareness to your chest and tune in to the motion of your rib cage. Again, not controlling the breath, but simply being aware that your ribs, your chest is expanding and contracting. Your ribs are moving out and then back in. Now moving your awareness to your belly and lower back, noticing how they move as you breathe in and out. Letting that movement support you in being aware and present, so that that movement becomes your anchor, your focus for awareness. Now, tuning into whatever aspect of the breath you'd like to notice, tuning into its movements anywhere in your body that calls you or that feels like a good thing. Notice how the breath is changing in every moment. There's a constant flow of sensation. And just by noticing this, meditating with the breath becomes a meditation on impermanence. You don't have to add another dimension. Just by noticing its constant change as you experience it, you also experience impermanence. Now take a moment to reflect on the great ocean of air that surrounds all of us and how we are reliant on that, interdependent with that. And as you breathe in and out, just notice the effortlessness of that interdependence. It's so natural to rely on this ocean of air, the oxygen that all the plants on our planet have exhaled, and the carbon dioxide that we exhale that they need. And how this simple act of breathing in and breathing out highlights and exemplifies our interdependence with all of life, our connection with all of life. In a way, with every breath, we can recognize we're not alone. We're supported by the entire web of life on our planet. And that recognition can give rise to gratitude. Gratitude for being alive, for being so intimately connected to other living things. And we can do this through our simple awareness of the feeling of breathing. Now, finally, see if you can tune in to the energy build, the enlivening quality of the in-breath. There's a sense of being charged as we breathe in, of energy building, and a sense of relaxation as we breathe out, letting go as we breathe out. And see if you can tune into this. As you breathe in, you can even silently say the word nurture or nourish. And as you breathe out, you can silently say the word relax, just to help sharpen this experience. And this is something you can do when you want to ground or be more centered at any point during your day. Just one or two breaths like this breath of love and compassion, can really help us ground and be more present for ourselves as we move through the day. So letting go of focus on the breath, just let your mind and heart rest again. As you open your eyes, look around a little bit, maybe stretch a bit if you like, to sort of come back to our normal space of being together here in this webinar. And I'm going to invite you to put in the chat any reflections about this practice or anything I said about breathing meditation. Was it challenging for you in any way? Was it easy? Was it fun? Was it relaxing? Was there one of the approaches that we took, of the several approaches in the practice that I led, that was your favorite for today? So I'm seeing a comment in the chat that it was relaxing. I know it was relaxing for me, which is one of the gifts of leading meditation. I meditate too. I don't just lead. I see in the chat, focusing on the sensations was a good way to keep my mind from wandering. This is a wonderful thing about meditating with any body sensations. They really can ground us, and they're always present. The sensations of the breath are always present. So it can be a wonderful way of grounding. I see a comment. I often do the counting practice when I have some anxiety and it calms me down. I'm so happy to see you putting that in the chat. I think that's something many of us can benefit. It was calming. I usually do not focus on breathing, but on an anchor of some other kind. So this was really a good shift. And there are so many things that you can, perspectives that you can bring to the breath. So it has a lot of variety just as itself. I see a comment, I was able to focus more on my breath and my nostrils rather than my chest, so I did not control it. Thanks for that. I'm so happy that that worked out for you. That was a game changer for me when I discovered that. Well, I'm going to put a link in the chat, and feel free to keep commenting in the chat. We've got about 3 more minutes. I'll link to resources, and I'm also going to share a slide with the QR code and the website that I put in the chat, point32health.org/livingwell, which takes you to a bunch of resources. You can see the schedule in the upper left-hand corner, that there's not just mindfulness, but there's cardio dance, Tai Chi, yoga, wellness, recharging. There's all sorts of things that you can do in this Living Well community. So I encourage you to check that out. Any final comments in the chat? I'm not seeing anything. I'm going to stop sharing. So one of the things that I find, the variety of meditations with the breath that we did today, is that for me, it brings a sense of curiosity that deepens my lived experience of just being alive. And that sense of curiosity that the breath, just because it's happening all the time and it's so, always there, it opens up an incredibly rich world of experience if we can just get curious about it. And I'd leave you with the question of how might this skill of breathing meditation, and of course meditation in general, be applied to your life, to challenging situations, just to simply being more present as you move through your day. We've talked about a couple of those, how counting the breath can be grounding and help calm us down, how that breath of loving kindness and compassion that I taught at the very end can ground us and help us just maybe get back in touch with how we care for ourselves in the midst of the flow of life. And it doesn't have to be a challenging situation. It can just be a way of kind of, giving yourself some support at a moment through the day. Well, I want to thank all of you for being present. It was great to share all this with you. Thanks to those of you who type stuff in the chat. It's always great to see your experience. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful week. And Tara will be back next week, I'm sure. Okay, take care now. And great to see the comments coming into the chat. I'll hang out here for a moment, just in case anyone wants to put anything in the chat. And thanks for all your good wishes. Okay, bye-bye now.